Yesterday, Etienne Bacrot missed a clear win right at the end of his game against Alexander Moiseyenko. Today he faced Richard Rapport, the 17-year-old Hungarian, and Bacrot found himself under pressure right from the start as Rapport caught him in some home preparation. Let's see what happened. Well, this is a fantastically sharp variation of the Slav. It's highly theoretical. In fact, Bacrot knows this variation very well, but Rapport was playing his moves very confidently, very quickly. Now, Botvinnik variation, so-called. And here, black looks like he's about to lose a piece because of this pin, but no, he still has g5. And if the bishop goes back, then knight d5, and this pawn mass on the queen side is very dangerous. But here's the trick. White takes on g5, and after this exchange, you can see White has snapped off a couple of pawns and is about to win his piece back because of this pin. It's all been seen before. Now g3, preparing to bring the bishop to g2. Now the main move here is bishop b7. There are some famous games in this line, including a couple of victories by Kasparov in one of the first Soviet championships that he played. But today, instead of bishop b7, Rapport played rook g8. Very quickly indeed. Now, it's possible to take on f6, but theoretically the best move is h4. And, well, as I said, Rapport was playing very quickly, but Bacrot has had this before, so he was playing reasonably quickly too. So it's a very double-edged position where black has two minor pieces, a knight and a bishop, for a rook, but white has this mass of pawns on the king side, black has a mass of pawns on the queen side. It's fantastically complicated. Now, white needs to break through to the king quickly, otherwise black will consolidate his position, get his king to safety, and then he'll stand better. But this is highly unclear. It's all been seen before, and indeed Bacrot had exactly this position against a strong player, Sasha Kiran, a few years ago, and Sasha Kiran played knight b6, and well, Bacrot ended up winning the game, so Bacrot knows his stuff here. So it's quite a risk for Rapport to go into this, but he was clearly very well prepared. Now in this position, queen b4 has been seen before, and then queen c2 covers everything, but that's kind of the main line, you could say. But here Rapport played rook b8, which is just about a new move in this position, played it really quickly, and Bacrot started using up more and more time, and very soon Rapport was an hour up on the clock. Now this is a really mysterious move, actually, rook b8. Of course it can be useful to support the pawn in some cases, but well, I'm still pretty confused as to the actual point of this move. There seems to be a lot going on in the position. So Bacrot started thinking for a long time. He could try rook h7 here, rook h8. Of course, it's very disconcerting when your opponent has played this new move very quickly. But after a bit, Bacrot played bishop takes knight. And if black takes back with the pawn, well, this transposes back into a game that Bacrot had played against a compatriot of his, Laurent Fessinet, French Grandmaster, and Bacrot ended up winning a very nice game. And yeah, look, has a very nice initiative here, and in this endgame, you know, the pawns came through. But instead, Rapport recaptured with the e-pawn. Again, he was moving absolutely instantly. And now, kind of the obvious move here is to play rook h7, attacking the queen and posting the rook on a really active square. But then comes knight takes pawn. This is what Bacrot feared. And suddenly black counterattacks through the middle, and the bishop is freed. I mean, I know the king looks very strange on d8, but the counterattack is pretty dangerous. For example, here, Bacrot mentioned that after queen g5, he'd seen this variation, bishop e7, and now rook takes bishop does not win. You don't play queen takes rook, allowing queen takes bishop, but instead, of course, bishop d3 check, and white's queen is lost. I mean, of course, in this position, there are other things going on, but still, it shows the kind of counterplay that black can gain. So, after some thought, Bacrot played f4. In fact, he was very cool during this game, in spite of the fact that he had such a time disadvantage. He didn't panic. He kept his concentration and played very steadily. And after the game, he simply said, well, you know, I was pretty confident here, actually. He's played this kind of position before in 2 previous games, and he sat and he calculated. And, well, he did very well indeed. So f4 he wanted to play simply to prevent any nasty counter-sacrifices on e5, and, of course, to get these pawns rolling. Then came bishop g7, and Bacrot thought this was a good move. So if rook h7, that's a blunder, knight f8 would win material there. So the fork, so let's go back. So Bacrot took on c6, which looks fantastic for white, but there are lots of tricks here. Rapport was still playing just about instantly, but as we'll see, maybe this was a problem. Now, if the queen goes to a8, then it gets trapped. Knight b6 threatened after knight takes d5, queen e6, the knight's got to move, and then knight b6. So, queen takes d5. It looks fantastic for white, but it's not so clear, actually. Now, the queen manages to escape from this skewer with queen g8, so knight f8 blocks. Again, Rapport was moving instantly, he had a huge time advantage, and now this position isn't so clear because the queen finds itself rather stuck, and suddenly black has managed to coordinate his pieces, and the king doesn't look too bad at the moment, and this is a very tricky position indeed. So, for example, well, what can white play? Let's say d5. Well, you have to watch out for moves like, I think maybe a rook g6 is possible, and you know, perhaps the queen comes to c5. It's very tricky indeed. Let me go back. Bacrot played knight d5. Now, if this is taken, of course, having got rid of one of those bishops, white stands very well. Well, actually, simply winning here. Next to your castle, and you shove the pawns forward, you can see these pieces are just nothing. So queen d7, absolutely forced, attacking the knight. Now knight takes b6, you have to play this because the rook is en prise. And here it was as though, let me just get those arrows off the board. Here it was as though Rapport had basically started thinking in the game too late. You know, he was playing all these moves instantly and kind of getting carried away. And this is a huge danger when you're very well prepared and you have a line you're very eager to play out. And it's only around here that he started calculating. And unfortunately, his calculation was not good enough. He recaptured the knight here on b6. In fact, as Bacrot had seen during the game, he should have played queen g4. Now, the first point is that the queen prevents white's king castling, so the king is still vulnerable in the middle of the board, and just there doesn't seem to be any decent defense to this counter-attack by the queen. So, for example, if you try to defend this pawn on g3 with rook g1, then the queen just comes into f3. The queen is stuck for a moment. I mean, white even has to be a little bit careful he doesn't lose, but okay, it looks like this should be a draw. And after this, well, I don't think there's anything else. It's going to be a draw. And there seems to be no decent defense. And again, rook h3, well, maybe you can take the rook, but perhaps the simplest way to draw is queen f3. But instead, Rapport took on b6. Who knows, maybe he was still playing for the win here. He might well have overlooked Bacrot's next move, which was really very strong indeed. Well, if the rook moves, then black is probably in business. Then the queen can come in. I mean, it should be at least a draw. But d5 was Bacrot's answer to these problems. This is a great move. Maybe Rapport overlooked this. The pawn can't be taken. If queen d5, well, that loses instantly to rook d1 and the pin. And if bishop takes d5, that allows white to transpose into a winning endgame. It's just an exchanging exchanging combination. But here, rook against bishop and knight, well, sometimes that can be an interesting ending. Not clear who's better, but here with these pawns, obviously white is winning. You just advance the king and advance the pawns very steadily, completely winning for white. So after d5, black has problems. So he desperately needs counterplay. If white castles, it's all over. The pawns just advance. So black has to play this move, queen g4 again. But this time it's different. We can shut out black's queen with king f2. And there's no way through. Queen g6 was played, but this was defended very simply by rook e1. So if queen c2 check, then we can play rook e2. No danger there for the king. And, well, Bacrot mentioned after the game that maybe black should have tried this, but, you know, perhaps rook e3 is a good answer. Or even playing in the game with rook h4 should be a good move. But yeah, it seems to me that rook e3, just to prevent the pawns advancing for a moment and still covering the king, should be good enough. But okay, Rapport tried bishop c8 to activate this bishop. Now, rook h4, still not absolutely simple. Let me show you one of the tricks here, which is if you advance straight away, looks very strong with this threat, but no, bang, check. And you lose the queen. So white has to be very careful here. And if bishop g4 comes, then suddenly black is in business because you can't cover with the rook. So Bacrot played rook h4, an excellent move. If bishop g4, then you just take the thing off. You just hack the thing off. And having got rid of that bishop, there is absolutely no danger for the king, and well, probably queen f7 should be good enough to win. Now black is lost. If bishop d7, then, well, another point of rook h4 is that you can now advance this pawn. You give this up, and Bacrot demonstrated a very nice win here. e6. Now the point is this: with the rook on h4, you can take the bishop, you give the queen, but this is now a forced win. And this showed how good Bacrot's calculation was. Rook e5, and, well, if the bishop is protected, well, for instance here, you can simply take this off and you win the queen. And if the bishop retreats, then this wins by force, because queen f7 again can be met by rook f4, and, well, it's all over basically. The king's getting mated, the pawn's promoted, it's gone. So bishop f5 played, but rook e3 is a very solid move indeed. And the point is that Now white is ready to play e6, and there's no check on d4, so the queen is safe. Now it's all over. Really simple. This is a nice move. Again, prevents any nonsense on d4 and makes room for the rook to come to f4. And here it's all over. The king is safe. And this wins by force. Here, and well, white has two ways to win. You can simply make a queen, or you can force checkmate immediately. Actually, black resigned here, but let's just show what happens. Make a queen here, check, and mate. So very coolly played by Bacrot, who was caught in his opponent's preparation, but really concentrated well. With that win, he actually goes into the lead in the tournament. Let me just show you one beautiful moment from one of the other games today. In the game Nippon Nishi against Ding Liren. Very interesting King's Indian again. I don't have time to go through the whole game, but let me just show you one beautiful moment. Well, Ding Liren has sacked a pawn. He has an attack against white's king, but this knight is out of play, and you can see that Nippon Nishi has packed his king side with pieces, and it's not easy for black to break through. But watch what happens to Ding Liren's position. He started with rook d7. Very clever move. He wants to get white to exchange, and then the knight is back in the game. Come to f6, and suddenly white's position is very shaky on the king side. So white doesn't want to trade. Instead, Nippon Nishi brought the knight back to e2. Now we can see another reason for the rook on d7. Bishop c3 from the Chinese player. What a fantastic move, and he's really unlucky that this didn't win straight away. If queen takes bishop, let's see what the idea is. Basically, we've cleared the second rank. We can take here, then we sack the queen, and then it's mate. Fantastic stuff. The double-barrel shotgun mate. And if knight takes, again we take here. Now, sadly, the queen sack doesn't work because the queen can interpose, but rook h7 is winning with the threat here. And if bishop g2, we take, and now it's forced mate. Let me just get there. There we go. Checkmate. So in the game, after bishop c3, actually white is okay, and Nippon Nishi wanted to show that he'd actually seen this move in advance and replied instantly with queen g3, and the game reeled on and finally ended in a draw. But I just wanted to show you that rather beautiful move, bishop c3. So there we go. Bacrot leads the tournament at the halfway stage. Thanks for watching.